Hello, everyone. I'm Black Rabbit. A lot of people think China's Belt and Road Initiative, BRI, is nothing but a wasteful, money-burning project. That's completely wrong. Today, I'm going to break down its real strategic value for you in detail. The BRI is China's strategic upgrade, moving from standing up and getting rich to becoming strong. It serves a bigger picture of national security and national development. Geopolitical significance. It breaks the Malacca dilemma, builds multiple trade and energy corridors, and greatly increases China's strategic depth across the Eurasian continent and its global influence. Through dual-use infrastructure, ports, railways, pipelines, civilian use today, potential military use tomorrow, it creates a string-of-pearls layout. Gwadar Port in Pakistan, Djibouti Port, etc. This strengthens China's presence in the Indo-Pacific while directly countering America's Indo-Pacific strategy. Economic and development significance. It exports China's excess capacity, steel, construction, opens up new emerging markets, and drives development in Western China, Xinjiang as the bridgehead. In 2025, BRI energy-related investments hit a record $939 billion, double the previous year. In 2026, it continues to focus on energy, minerals, and new technologies, helping China build the dual circulation new development pattern. Global governance significance. With the principle of consultation, co-construction, and sharing, it leads cooperation among Global South countries and challenges the Western-dominated international order, IMF, World Bank. In 2026, the BRI puts even more emphasis on the Green Silk Road and Digital Silk Road, focusing on renewable energy, 5G, and data centers to align with the global low-carbon transition. The BRI is not a zero-sum game, but it absolutely serves China's core interests: resource security, supply chain resilience, and financial independence. Energy acquisition. Building a diverse, secure, and stable global energy map. China is the world's largest energy consumer and importer. Oil import dependency day 70%. In the past, we relied heavily on choke points like the Malacca Strait, making us vulnerable to geopolitical risks. The core BRI strategy is to go out and secure energy by building infrastructure chains to localize and diversify supply. 1. Land energy corridors, Silk Road economic belt. 2. Central Asia-China natural gas pipelines, lines A, B, C, D, already running stably. Turkmenistan and Kazakhstan have become major gas sources. Volumes keep growing in 2025. 3. China-Russia crude oil pipelines, East and West lines. Russia is now China's largest overland oil supplier, completely bypassing sea risks. 4. China-Myanmar oil and gas pipeline, goes straight to Yunnan, avoids the Malacca Strait, and opens a direct route to the Indian Ocean. Maritime energy channels, 21st century maritime Silk Road. Gwadar Port, CPE, China-Pakistan Economic Corridor. Pakistan's deep water port lets China pull Middle Eastern oil directly from the Persian Gulf, Arabian Sea, cutting transport distance by more than 30%. Middle East and Africa layout. Massive oil and gas field development and port cooperation in Saudi Arabia, Iran, Iraq, Angola, etc. In 2025, Saudi Arabia became a key BRI partner. China invested $52 billion in green energy there while locking in traditional oil and gas. Africa resources, oil and gas projects in Angola, Congo, etc., combined with minerals, using the classic resources for infrastructure model. 2026, latest developments and strategic upgrades. BRI energy investment now balances green plus traditional. Renewable energy, solar, wind, share is rising fast, but oil and gas pipelines and processing facilities remain the main force. First half 2025, oil and gas investments already reached $300 billion. Small and beautiful projects, community solar microgrids, lithium battery processing, etc., embedded in Global South energy transitions. Strategic result: China's energy imports are now truly diversified. Russia plus Central Asia share rising sharply. Transportation security has greatly improved, and dependence on any single route has dropped sharply. Chinese companies, Sinopec, etc., are now deeply embedded in the upstream of the global energy value chain. The BRI has upgraded energy acquisition from simply buying oil to controlling the entire chain. Infrastructure plus equity plus long-term contracts. Energy security equals national security. De-dollarization. using RMB internationalization to achieve financial autonomy and global monetary diversification. Dollar hegemony, petrodollar plus SWIFT dominance, exposes China to sanctions and exchange rate risks. The BRI is the main battlefield for RMB internationalization. Through trade settlement, loan currency denomination, and payment system substitution, it accelerates de-dollarization. 1. Core mechanisms. 2. RMB trade settlement. More and more BRI contracts are priced and settled in RMB. In 2025, RMB's share in China's cross-border trade exceeded 30%, doubled since 2017. Russia-China trade is now over 90% in local currencies. 3. Currency swaps and CIPS. The People's Bank of China has signed swaps with more than 30 BRI countries, total times $5.9 trillion. CIPS, the SWIFT alternative, now covers most BRI partners globally. 4. Petro-yuan. Saudi Arabia, Iran, and Russia are increasingly accepting RMB for oil payments. In 2026, Indian refineries are buying part of Russian crude in RMB. Russia is considering RMB for energy deals with Europe. Brazil is expanding RMB use for soybeans, iron ore, and oil. 5. Digital RMB ECY, already piloted for cross-border payments in BR countries, cutting costs and bypassing dollar clearing. 2026, latest progress. Under the BRICS Plus framework, RMB's share in emerging market reserves and trade keeps rising. The 15th five-year plan explicitly prioritizes RMB internationalization. More BR loans are now issued in RMB, reducing dollar exposure. IAIB and the Silk Road Fund are also strengthening RMB usage. Global South response. Pakistan, Argentina, and others are repaying debt and settling trade in RMB to avoid dollar shortages. Strategic significance. Reduces financial risk, avoids U.S. sanctions, like SWIFT cutoffs on Russia and Iran. Increases discourse power, turns RMB into a bridgehead reserve currency, and pushes a multipolar monetary system. Links directly with energy. RMB-denominated energy trade, oil plus gas, directly weakens the petrodollar and creates a closed energy currency loop. In short, the BRI is not just infrastructure. It is a dual-wheel infrastructure plus currency engine, driving de-dollarization. Physical connectivity locks in real-world RMB usage scenarios. The deep synergy between energy acquisition and de-dollarization, the two are tightly linked. BRI energy projects, pipelines, ports, are mostly funded and settled in RMB, securing resources while promoting the currency. Petro-yuan, in turn, strengthens energy security. Middle Eastern and Russian suppliers are happier to sell in RMB. In 2026, this synergy is being further strengthened within BRICS Plus and the green transition, forming a powerful resources, finance, geopolitics strategic iron triangle. Just when Chinese taxpayers thought they could defeat the United States, that man appeared.
私には愛国心がある。いつもプラスとマイナスは均衡しているのだ。我が心と行動に一点の曇りなし。すべてが正義だ。ナプキンを取れる者と万人から尊敬されていなくてはならない。隣の次元へ逃れて隠れなくては。やはり女神は存在した。私に味方してくれる女神がな。試練は流される血で終わる。この私が最初のナプキンを手にしたぞ。光栄に思うがいい。ディフォーシー。この隣の場所に自由に入ってこれるのはこの私の能力だけだ。遺体はこのバレンタインのことを好いてくれている。
Democratic Party corruption and inaction allowed massive Chinese infiltration and development. America enters a new chapter with party alternation, with the start of Donald Trump's second term in 2026. Under the banners of America First and Peace Through Strength, the United States has launched two landmark military operations in rapid succession. Operation Absolute Resolve on January 3rd, a lightning capture of Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro and his wife, and Operation Epic Fury, launched on February 28th and lasting 38 days, a large-scale precision strike against Iran. As of April 10th, 2026, both operations have achieved their core objectives. Venezuela is now under a U.S.-led interim government with its oil industry back under American control, while Iran has agreed to an immediate ceasefire and the full reopening of the Strait of Hormuz. Trump has repeatedly criticized Biden's inaction in White House speeches and on Truth Social, stating, "Biden left behind a mess of weakness. We have cleaned it up in the shortest possible time." These actions have not only reshaped the geopolitical landscape in the Middle East and Latin America, but have also directly disrupted China's Belt and Road Initiative, BRI, in energy and infrastructure, providing the U.S. with powerful leverage for negotiations with China and for strengthening dollar hegemony. Below is a comprehensive analysis from 4 perspectives: details of the 2 operations, Trump's criticism of Biden, the strategic blow to China's BRI, and the gains in negotiation leverage and dollar dominance, based on the latest updates from the White House, Department of Defense, EIA, and international media. 1. Operation Absolute Resolve. The surgical capture of Maduro in Venezuela and U.S. operation of a major oil power. At approximately 2 a.m. on January 3, 2026, U.S. forces launched Operation Absolute Resolve. The operation lasted only 2 hours and 28 to 39 minutes, one of the shortest conflicts in history. It involved more than 150 aircraft, including F-35s, F-22s, and B-1Bs, special forces, helicopters, and cyber-electronic warfare support. First, airstrikes suppressed Venezuela's northern air defense systems and military installations, followed by a special forces raid on the presidential palace fortress in Caracas, resulting in the live capture of Maduro and his wife. The couple was immediately transferred by helicopter to an amphibious assault ship and then flown to New York to face charges including narco-terrorism. There were 0 U.S. casualties. Trump described the mission as perfectly executed. Latest developments, as of April 10, 2026. The Maduro couple is currently on trial in New York. Venezuela is being run by an interim government led by Vice President Delcy Rodriguez, with the United States effectively operating the country's oil industry. American companies have been granted priority development rights, and Venezuela has committed to supplying 30 to 50 million barrels of sanctioned oil to the U.S. Trump stated, "America will control the cash flow." The operation also led to the release of 621 political prisoners and advanced a democratic transition. Trump sharply criticized Biden. Biden put a $25 million bounty on Maduro, but did nothing. He allowed this narco-terrorist regime to keep stealing American assets, fuel the migrant crisis, and expand the influence of China, Russia, and Iran. He emphasized that the action was a victory in correcting Biden's 4 years of weakness. 2. Operation Epic Fury, 38-day overwhelming victory against Iran and the reopening of the Strait of Hormuz. On February 28, 2026, Trump ordered the launch of Operation Epic Fury. U.S. and Israeli forces deployed 155 aircraft, including bombers, fighters, and tankers, to destroy key Iranian nuclear facilities, Natanz, Fordo, etc., missile production sites, air defense systems, and naval fleets. At the height of the campaign, Trump publicly threatened to strike every power plant and every bridge, targeting energy and transportation infrastructure, and forcing Iran to capitulate. Latest developments, as of April 10, 2026. Within 38 days, U.S. forces destroyed 80% of Iran's air defense systems, 90% of its naval fleet, and large portions of its nuclear and missile infrastructure. After an F-15E was shot down, the U.S. conducted a massive rescue operation involving more than 170 aircraft and successfully recovered the crew with no additional U.S. casualties. On April 7th, Iran agreed to a 2-week ceasefire and the immediate reopening of the Strait of Hormuz. Bilateral talks are scheduled in Islamabad around April 14th, during which the U.S. plans to cooperate with Iran on excavating and removing enriched uranium material. Trump declared total victory, stating that Iran no longer poses a significant threat. Trump again slammed Biden. Biden eased sanctions, allowing Iran's oil revenue to surge and fund proxies like Hamas and Hezbollah. Its nuclear programs spiraled out of control and approached the threshold. If Biden had been strong enough, none of these operations would have been necessary. He framed both actions as a swift cleanup of the mess Biden left behind. 3. Strategic Core, disrupting China's Belt and Road Initiative and severing its energy lifelines. The 2 operations directly targeted the core nodes of China's BRI in Latin America and the Middle East, delivering a precise point-to-surface strike. Venezuela, once a key BRI partner in oil and infrastructure, China had substantial investments, loans, and projects there. After the operation, the the U.S. took operational control of oil exports, severely disrupting China's energy supply chain. The Trump administration instructed the interim government to expel China, Russia, Iran, and Cuba, severing the economic ties of the BRI. Iran, a critical link in the BRI's string of pearls, ports and energy corridors. The Hormuz crisis directly threatened China's oil imports, which rely on the Malacca, South China Sea route for over 70% of its supply. Although the ceasefire reopened the strait, Iran's nuclear and military capabilities were devastated, leaving China's strategic depth in the Middle East and its BRI projects, Sino-Iranian cooperation, facing long-term uncertainty. The Trump team explicitly views these actions as exposing the vulnerabilities of China's grand strategy. The BRI's grand vision has been punctured by America's precise point control, and China's efforts at energy diversification have suffered a short-term setback. 4. Dual benefits, negotiation leverage, and consolidation of dollar hegemony. These operations have delivered multiple strategic dividends for the United States: leverage in negotiations with China, stabilized energy routes, and the restructuring of oil supplies have significantly increased America's bargaining power in U.S.-China competition. In true Trump deal-making style, the U.S. first applied maximum military pressure, then used energy agreements to extract concessions from China on trade, Taiwan, the South China Sea, and other issues. Strengthening dollar hegemony. Venezuelan oil has returned to the dollar settlement system. The Iran operation secured freedom of navigation in the Strait of Hormuz, preserving the petrodollar framework under which oil is priced in dollars. U.S. LNG export dominance has been further consolidated, increasing Europe's and Asia's dependence on American energy and undermining China's efforts to internationalize the renminbi and de-dollarize through the BRI. These decisive actions mark the beginning of a new American chapter, one defined by strength, rapid results, and the reassertion of U.S. global leadership.